That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
All right, welcome to Around the Ring, episode 52 for today, Sunday, January 17th, 2016. I'm your host, Dave Brown. I'm joined by Michael from WrestlingExpress.net. How you doing, sir?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, doing well. So, what's going on with Wrestling Express lately?
Still prepping up some changes, getting I guess ready to relaunch the site with a different look, you know.
Okay.
I'm hoping it should be ready to go sometime next week. If not, then probably the following week.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, if you guys aren't reading Wrestling Express, make sure to go check it out, WrestlingExpress.net. They do some great stuff over there, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. We are a week away from Royal Rumble, so this time next week, well, this time in a few hours next week, that will be going on. Would you say probably, as far as WWE is concerned, the second biggest show of the year? Is that a pretty fair assessment?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Okay. And so we had Raw from this last week was in New Orleans with a horrible freaking crowd. But it doesn't help that they start the show out second week in a row with literally 4 minutes of replays from the previous week. Does that drive you crazy? It drives me insane.
It drives me more insane when they do 4 minutes of replays at the top of every hour.
True. Or the replays in the middle of the show of something that happened earlier in the show. Or they go to commercial break and they show you a replay of just what happened just before the commercial break. I know I know they've got 3 hours to fill, but damn, you know? Why not instead fill them with 15 to 20 minute long matches? Call me crazy. I think people would enjoy it. Yeah, but this episode started out, the roster was all on the stage. Vince and Stephanie McMahon came out, cut a promo in the ring, being all Vince and Stephanie-like, which it's already getting really irritating. When Vince first came back a few weeks ago, it was kind of nice. It was like, oh, hadn't seen the old fart in a while. And the few times when Roman won the title that night, that was some good stuff there. And I will say, I do like how Roman reacts to Stephanie, how he just laughs at her and kind of taunts her. And so far, he has been one of the only people currently on the roster that has been allowed to not completely have his penis chopped off by Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, because he's Vince's boy. Of course he won't be... well...
We know what you're going for. That's
yeah,
yeah. Because and I do like that. That's actually the chemistry that Roman Reigns has with Stephanie is actually pretty good. That the one episode where he said, "Hey, watch this. This is really going to make her mad," and turned his back on her. I loved that. I thought that was one of the best promos he'd ever done.
I agree.
Yeah. The best part of this whole thing was when the Vince and Stephanie were talking and the lights go out and the Wyatts were on the announce table. And recently they've teased a couple of times the Wyatts going babyface. And I think they really need to do that at some point soon, or otherwise those characters are going to be completely dead in the water. They did it the one time when the Wyatts interrupted the League of Nations. And then this time when they interrupted Vince and Stephanie, I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, they didn't go the full 9, which they should have, but baby steps, I guess.
Very true.
Yeah, and Reigns came out, and then they set up a match with basically Reigns against damn near everyone. Then we had Sheamus versus Dean Ambrose. The best part I thought of this match, this actually wasn't a horrible match from what I remember, because Sheamus, for all his personality issues, he's actually pretty good in the ring when he's got someone to brawl with, or when he's in there with someone who is good. He had some great matches with Cesaro. He's actually even had some good matches with Roman Reigns, and this match was pretty good. The best part, though, is at one point the camera caught some crowd screaming at Sheamus, "Shut up, how many mirrors have you broken?" And I laughed. I just thought that was great. Sheamus did get busted open the hard way, and that was a brutal shot when he got his head hit on the ring post. Did you hear that, the smack that made?
I did not.
Oh man, it just, and I know Sheamus has a hard head because who was it? Ziggler busted his head open after headbutting him a few times, but whew, that was bad. And then Kevin Owens came in, interrupted after a double count out, and attacked Ambrose. So what are your thoughts on what's going on with Ambrose and Owens and whatever the hell they're doing with Sheamus and all this?
Well, I love the feud with Ambrose and Owens. I just think people were quick to jump to the conclusion that it wasn't going to be much because of the history WWE has with feuds for the Intercontinental title not being much. But I think the Royal Rumble, which I know we'll get into later, I think the Royal Rumble has all the possibilities of just changing the expectations for that feud depending on how their matches.
Agreed. I think these two guys work really well together. I don't think they've had that standout fantastic match yet that you just know these two could possibly have, and I don't know if they ever met on the indies back in the day. Overall, I'm enjoying it. I mean, anytime Kevin Owens comes out, I think it's great. He's just fantastic. The fact that he hasn't been, pushed better is just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an indictment of Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn. Same with what they've done with Ambrose. I mean, they've got, and we've talked about this before, they've got this group of guys and gals that are ridiculously talented that they just are wasting. But yeah, I'm hoping they do something cool with the Royal Rumble with them, either both in a match and then in the Rumble itself. There was then Stephanie and Vince were backstage and were approached by Paul Heyman. And Heyman proposed just putting Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania, fighting whoever wins the Royal Rumble. And Vince wanted none of that. And I really get the feeling sometimes that Vince McMahon really hates Paul Heyman. Because I know he's a pretty good actor when he gets out there in front of the camera and is hamming it up. But that seething hatred that was in his eyes when he was glaring at Heyman in that segment, I have a feeling that comes from a place of reality, you know?
Yeah. I have a tendency to agree.
Yeah. And then there was another Stardust Titus O'Neil match, which was pretty boring. Apparently Stardust and Stephen Amell are going to have another meeting at like some Comic-Con somewhere, and I don't know if we're going to get Stephen Amell back in a match at some point. I thought he did really good. Was that at SummerSlam?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big fan of his show, so I knew he was physically going to be able to, do well in the ring, even though the poor guy looked like a midget compared to everybody. And he's a ripped dude, man. You see him on his show, and he's all, muscular and buff looking, and you put him next to Cody Rhodes, and he's like, oh, you're so small. And Cody's not even a ripped guy. What happened after that? Oh, then, okay. One of the worst things, freaking Chris Jericho. He just needs to go away. What are they doing with him? Why are they bringing him back other than he has a name? He's not working well with the New Day. The New Day are outclassing him. He keeps using these bad old jokes. He dresses like he's, 20 years younger than he is. Can you explain this to me? I don't get it.
Well, it's obvious they needed star power, and even if Jericho isn't, even if he isn't the name he used to be, he still gives them more star power than they had.
Okay, a very valid point. Very true. I will concede that. But I watch Jericho, and it's like he's like one of those older guys that just can't accept the fact that he's an older guy. I know he's still doing his band, and which they blow, in my humble opinion, awful. But he still thinks he's like, a 22-year-old rock star. And now, granted, he was always arrogant, even going back to his WCW days. But at this point, it's like, oh, honey, please, you're 45-something odd years old. Stop. Just, it's sad.
I mean, in my opinion, if they stop leaning so heavily on his promos. I mean, nothing against Jericho and his promos. He's one of the best promo guys in WWE. It could just be different styles for the New Day and Jericho. Jericho's better at being serious now, and the New Day are better at comedy. But once he gets in the ring and he starts working again, people will remember why they always are excited when Jericho comes back.
That's true. He did have that really good match against Neville at the Beast in the East special.
Yeah.
Now he's not quite where he was, years ago, but again, that's understandable. The dude's 45 some odd years old. I would love to see him in some capacity, like maybe on commentary, because he is a good talker. Mm-hmm. And they rely way too much on part-time talent. But I think transitioning him into like a commentary role would be a really good place for him. Get rid of JBL and put him in there. Maybe, even though I say that JBL has a few moments here and there.
Yeah, that's true. But
really, the whole commentating team, especially on Raw, I think would be 1,000 times better without Vince McMahon screaming in their ear.
I agree. I totally agree. And, not saying that that's the reason why those guys are better, but NXT is a perfect example.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm actually apparently one of the few people that I enjoy Byron Saxton. I like the role he plays of being kind of the dopey guy that everyone poops on. But his chemistry, I think, with Corey Graves on NXT is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, it was interesting, though, this last week on NXT, it was Corey Graves and Tom Phillips. And I don't know if that's a permanent thing, or if Byron has moved up to the main roster to stay, if Rich Brennan's doing something else, or if they're just moving people around, throwing stuff on the wall, seeing what sticks. I do think Corey Graves has kind of become... He's not the center guy of the NXT commentary team, but he has kind of become the voice of NXT in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I like him. I think he's gotten better over the last year. So I don't mind his commentary. I know some people can't stand it, but I like it. And another thing to the point I was making earlier about Vince yelling in their ear. If you compare the commentary on the Beast in the East special, which was Michael Cole and Byron Saxton, to your average Raw, which has two of those three same people, And it's mind-boggling, the difference. It's like, oh, well, just let these guys do their job, and they don't suck. That's something that amazes me about the WWE is, and I don't know if it's just Vince's arrogance that he's the one that has all the answers and it's his way or the highway type of thing, but they bring these people in and well, it's obvious you're going to have to adjust to your new working environment. And you do that in any type of work that you do. No matter what you're good at, you go into a new place and you figure out how to work in that place's environment. So that whole, you have to figure out the WWE style. Or as Don Tony on the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show says, you get domesticated when you come to WWE. But they set so many of these people up for failure. And then they blame the talent when it doesn't work. Well, how can you blame the talent for not getting over when you absolutely script everything they do every step of the way and you don't let them do anything? Mm-hmm. That's another one that I don't know if I will ever understand. And something I think that if NXT is any indication of how WWE will possibly run after Vince is gone and it's under a new regime, I think it will get better. Because in a lot of ways, the way that Triple H is running NXT, he's like the kid who grew up with some parents who weren't awful but had issues, and he watched them and said, okay, here's this laundry list of things I learned from you guys of what not to do, so I'm not going to do this crap. And lo and behold, it's successful.
Well, I mean, Hunter has always been a student of the business, and it shows with NXT.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Well, back to Raw, we then had an Usos New Day match, which the Usos got the win after a distraction roll-up from thanks to Jericho breaking the trombone, which right there, that Jericho deserves a swift kick in the nads for doing that. I thought this was boring as hell. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I was in a bad mood that night, but what did you think?
Well, in terms of the Usos, I think to perfectly summarize my opinion of the Usos, if I remember correctly, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I think it was back in December, possibly when they had like a 6-man tag team match. I made a comment saying I was paying more attention to try and figure out if that referee was Rudy Charles than actually paying attention to the match.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It was Rudy Charles.
That's great. I think that the Usos have become the victims of the fact that for the longest time they were the best thing, possibly the only thing in the tag team division. Mm-hmm. And because of that, they were just out of necessity. They were overexposed. Though they still should have given Harper and Rowan a run with the belts, I think. They still should at some point. But the Usos are the same. They're really, really good, but their matches have gotten boring because you know what's coming. I would actually like to see them go somewhere else. I'd love to see what they could do against a team like the Young Bucks. That would be fun.
I agree, and I think possibly if the partnership or the whatever WWE has with Evolve ever takes another step forward, we may get that where WWE guys could go to Evolve shows for a few weeks or a few shows, especially with Evolve starting up their tag team titles at the end of January. With shows in Florida at the end of January with the tournament to crown tag team champions, it might make it more it might make WWE more able to, say, send the Usos to Evolve for a few shows.
That would be fantastic. I would love to see them do more with Evolve. I know William Regal was at a recent taping, and Jason Jordan and Chad Gable were there for a signing, and Sami Zayn showed up at one and got in the ring and talked for a bit. I would love to see them do more. It would even be cool if they worked out something, and I know Evolve has their kind of own online WWE Network type platform, but it would be cool if some of their programming, maybe even a weekly show, was on the WWE Network. Because admittedly, right now I'm brokering a joke, so I can't afford to get anything extra, so I don't have the WWN platform, which I would love to have. I'd love to get that. I'd love to get that one that High Spots has put out with PWG, and was it PWG, PWX, and CZW are on a new platform. I would love to get all of that, but got kids and all, so that's not happening.
Damn kids.
Exactly. No. But it would be cool if they did put a weekly Evolve show on the network, and that would be a way to bring in more eyes, and overall I think help the landscape of the wrestling business. The rising tide raises all ships philosophy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So then, let's see. Next, we had an update on John Cena's injury. What happened to him? Do you know?
He tore his rotator cuff.
Doing what? Was it in a match?
Training.
Oh, dumbass. God, that was harsh. But yeah, I was like, hey, I'm back, guys. I had a match. Oh, I'm out. It's like, what?
Hey, at least it wasn't a shoulder injury.
That's true, man. That is true. But he's going to be out for a while now. The Cena of years past would have kicked this thing in like 2 months and be back in time for WrestleMania. But I suspect we will not see him at Mania, other than maybe an appearance.
See, I think this might be good for him and for WWE, because if I'm correct, the timetable puts him coming back around the B-level pay-per-views in the middle of the year, over the summer, like Money in the Bank or possibly even SummerSlam. A John Cena return at SummerSlam could continue to elevate the pay-per-view.
That is true. And SummerSlam is one of the big four, but it does need some love. I think if it's, I would say I would put it as like of the big four, it's probably number 3, because Survivor Series just doesn't seem to mean much at all anymore.
Well, I mean, when it's been going for 25 years, it's
true.
Possibly they need a facelift for some of the pay-per-views.
Yeah, that I agree with wholeheartedly. We then had another Paul Heyman, Stephanie backstage segment. Stephanie got to belittle Paul. I'm sure that made her feel happy. And Brock Lesnar is going to end up being in the Royal Rumble. That's decided. So that's cool. It just, with him being in there, and again, we'll talk about the Rumble here in a minute, but with him being in the Rumble, it just makes you think that, oh, well, he's going to win.
Yeah.
We then had JBL in the ring announcing that Sting is going into the Hall of Fame, and a pretty cool little vignette, and that crowd did not care. I don't think they cared about anything that night, though. So what do you think of Sting going in the Hall of Fame?
I think people jump to the conclusion that because he never did anything in WWE, he doesn't deserve it.
Really? There are people saying that?
But those are the people that don't know, number one, he's been in the business 30 years, and that every year WWE inducts somebody not based on their WWE career, but based on their career in wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a no-brainer. I thought that he would, even when he was still in TNA, I just thought at some point whether he ever wrestles in a WWE ring, he has to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. It's just, it's a no-brainer. He was, more than anyone else, he was WCW. More than Ric Flair, more than Arn Anderson, they both went away. He was the only one that stayed through everything. Luger left, Flair left, Anderson left, Blanchard left. Goldberg and DDP didn't leave, but they also were born. Their careers took off in WCW. Same with Booker T. But yeah, I mean, and you can't say that WCW was a Hogan area, because it just, you looked at Hogan there, it's like, oh, it's the old WWF champion guy trying to help elevate this company. I just always thought it was strange, Hogan being in WCW, but that's me. But I'm glad Sting's going to go in. The question is, does he headline this year? And if he doesn't, how big is that a middle finger from Vince McMahon?
I think he will be, because if he doesn't, who will?
Yeah, exactly. The only person I would see that you would in Dallas you would headline over Sting would be The Undertaker. But
True.
I don't think he's going in this year because, like a lot of other people, I don't think he's done wrestling. I mean, granted, he's had an actual pretty darn good year in 2015. He didn't look horrible in any of his matches.
No,
so
not at all.
Yeah, so he's probably going to want to go for a couple more years, and Vince is probably going to want to milk a little bit more out of him. It does beg the question, what do you do with him at WrestleMania this year, since he's not facing John Cena?
Well, I think that next year could be Taker's last year, but I thought this year was going to be his last year, but who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he wrestled in next year's WrestleMania, and then after that retired, and then went in the Hall of Fame the year after.
I could agree with that. Yeah,
that would make the most sense. As Sting going in the Hall of Fame this year, he's probably done as far as in-ring stuff is concerned, thanks to those buckle bombs, which he should never have taken. But, God, man, that guy's a trooper. He goes in there, hey, don't treat me any different than anyone else. And, one thing I will give Sting credit for is he is obviously not a very arrogant man. The fact that he went in there, and now granted it is WWE, it's Vince McMahon, he gets his way, but he went in there and basically, hey, this is what's going to be best for it. If this is my last match, speaking about the one with he had with Triple H, going out on my back is the way to do it. I feel great about it. The documentary about him was so telling about just the kind of selfless in a lot of ways guy he seems to be, and that in a lot of ways just made me like him even more. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but he just seems like a good person,
Yeah.
Let's see what happened next. The Wyatt family was in a match against the Social Outcasts. What do you think about the Social Outcasts?
I think that Slater has personality. He always has. He always has had personality. But in terms of gimmicks, this should help Adam Rose. This should force them to repackage Bo Dallas and finally repackage Heath Slater. And I guess, well, I'll put it this way. I did a post, I think yesterday, on looking at Elias Sampson from NXT, and I said that Elias Sampson has the look of Damian Sandow and the personality of Curtis Axel.
Oh my God, that is so spot on.
So that should tell you what I think of Curtis Axel.
Oh, poor Curtis Axel. It just has never worked for the guy.
I think he could perfect a crazy gimmick, like if he did like an Al Snow gimmick.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be perfect for him, but they would have to give him the opportunity to make it work. Then again, they did that with Sandow how many times, and they still keep him off TV.
Yeah, there were some pictures before this group debuted on Raw. There were some pictures floating around from a house show that had these guys, but had Sandow with them. And apparently there was an interview on WWE.com, which I haven't watched, but they're hinting at another person. I wonder, do you think they'll bring in Sandow into this?
I hope so. He could, because I think Sandow would be the only way the group gets over.
Yeah, I agree. I think Heath Slater he has always just irritated me for some reason. And part of it, I think that the three-man band was such an awful gimmick. It was completely awful when you look at Drew Galloway now, and you see how great he is. And then you look at what he was doing with Heath Slater and how awful, just cringeworthy that was. But I like what I see so far in this group. Though this match was a complete freaking waste of time, because Ryback just came out and eventually cleared the ring. So what are they doing with Ryback?
I honestly think he might be feuding with the Wyatts, but I mean, if he is, that's a good indication of how bad the depth is on the roster and why they need to improve the depth on the roster. Because if you, most people would remember Ryback feuded with Bray before Bray feuded with Roman.
Right? One match.
Yes, it was a placeholder feud, but... And, in most cases, placeholder feuds are feuds that you can go back to in the later on.
Right.
But the feud wasn't that good.
No. It really wasn't.
The match wasn't that good.
Yeah, it wasn't. The only thing I remember from that match was that brutal running senton that Bray hit from the apron onto Ryback and legit broke Ryback's ribs. And that was so brutal looking. Oh, yeah. Man. But yeah, that feud stunk. That was bad. What's funny is Ryback is this guy that he's good on commentary. He's a good talker when you just let him be himself. And he presents himself like, hey, I could be the next John Cena, and you hear him saying like silly things like that. They need to push me and all this. But then you see him get in the ring, and he's not god awful, but he's not very good. And it's like, wow, he's got the drive and the ambition. It's like, could we have taken some of that ambition and maybe put that into Daniel Bryan? And so instead of Bryan just being the guy who just always says, okay, whatever you need me to do, to be the guy who says, hey, no, I need to do this, instead of having Ryback be that guy.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's the whole thing's just you shake your head and you go, what are they doing with these guys?
Yeah.
And speaking of what are they doing with these guys, we then had Kalisto against Alberto Del Rio in a U.S. title match. Now their match, they had a match in that the world title tournament, the number one contenders tournament, and it stunk. It was awful, and I don't know what the problem was. This match wasn't terrible, but you would think that, looking at these two guys, you would think these two guys should have a good match together. And I don't know if their chemistry just isn't what it is, but Kalisto won, only to then drop the title 24 hours later at the SmackDown tapings. All I can say is, what the fuck? I don't understand.
Well, because I didn't see the spoilers, I did not know he dropped the title.
Oh, my bad.
I did not watch the show either. I'm not really a SmackDown guy. I mean, I kind of want to get back into it with Mauro Ranallo on the show now.
Yeah.
But I think, if anything, it's sort of like the same thing as having somebody win the title on a pay-per-view and then dropping it the next day on Raw. You do it to pop the ratings.
Yeah, I can see that. He just, I don't know. And I'm like you. It's like with the new announcer dude. I watched some of his first episode of SmackDown, and he was really good. I mean, Jerry Lawler going back to his heelish ways was definitely an improvement. But it's still, even they had, like, the main event was an Intercontinental title match, Ambrose against Owens, and there was a Divas title match, Becky Lynch against Charlotte, and it's still, at the end of it, the show just felt like it didn't matter. And I don't know how much of that is just that show has that stench. I don't know how much of it is it just the way it's produced. It just, even with this newness, it just doesn't feel important. It felt like it didn't matter.
I think that Ambrose needs a run with the title. Well, one of them, either Ambrose or Owens, needs a long run with the title, and they need to have matches like Cena did, even on a monthly basis, to improve the meaning and the importance of the belt. And SmackDown, time will save SmackDown if they book it like they did on the first show of the year.
I agree. That's a great idea. You could have maybe even an open challenge type of situation where...
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that for all the bitching people collectively, myself included, do about John Cena, that U.S. Open Challenge stuff was great. I
completely agree.
That was a lot of fun. I think that revitalized not only that title, but John Cena as well. I think that improved people's opinion of him. I mean, there was the frustration of him always winning and kicking out of people's finishers, but a lot of times the matches were so good it didn't really matter. And in so many of the cases, not only it was he barely won. Like I'm thinking of that match against Cesaro, the second one, where it was like a 20-minute long match, and he hit a couple of AAs and finally won with an AA off the top rope or off the middle rope. But it was a back and forth match, and it was there were times in that match I thought, oh, they're going to pull the plug. They're going to let Cesaro have this. And so if they did something like that with Ambrose, and I think that could work with Ambrose because he's got the whole crazy thing going on.
Yeah.
And he likes to fight, so I think that would be great. I think a SmackDown Open Challenge, and you could have it. I would make it probably if not the main event every week. It should be probably the main event every week or up really high in the card. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And you're right, with time, they could possibly, revitalize the show. So, yeah, I agree. Let's, hey, Vince, Kevin, book that now. Let's make that happen. Okay? Yeah, because they're totally listening. Then there was JoJo was doing a backstage interview with Charlotte and Ric Flair. I much prefer Charlotte as a heel.
Me too.
She is so much more comfortable. And I don't think it's because she's a mean person. I mean, from the table for three and everything, she seems like a very nice lady. But on camera, she comes off so much better when she's emulating her dad. That having been said, I really think they need to start weaning him away from her at some point in the next couple of months, because too much of him being around will hurt her long term.
Long term, yes, but I think it's about without him, she didn't have direction.
Yeah,
Wrestling fans have very little patience at the, nowadays to let things work themselves out like wrestling fans back in the 80s did. Yes, fine, knowledge, all that stuff, insider information, whatever. But Flair hasn't been there that long. It's just the presence about Flair that makes him different than any other manager would be.
Yeah, that. Okay, you have trumped my point. I give you that. So you keep them together for probably a year or two before you start to.
I mean, I think eventually what you said. I think eventually you need to start weighing him out. I just think right now is too soon,
especially with their lack of star power.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to have a Brie Bella versus Charlotte match. I guess Brie's a face again. She comes out doing her acting like a face. They can never decide what to do with it. It's like the Bellas are faces or heels depending on who they're fighting. But the best part of this is Becky Lynch came out and just beat the utter piss out of Charlotte. That was great.
Yeah.
And Ric Flair freaking out, getting in the ring, screaming at Fat Boy at some guy in the audience. That was some old school Ric Flair right there. That was actually good. And then Becky Lynch's backstage interview afterwards was fantastic. That was the best thing she has done since being on the main roster, interview-wise, period. She had so much energy. She came off as pissed. It was fantastic. And that was actually when she came out and beat up Charlotte. That was one of the few times that the audience really lit up, I thought. So I'm guessing there's going to be a Becky-Charlotte match at the Rumble.
Yeah.
Do you think they're going to keep the belt on Charlotte, or do you think they're going to put it on Becky?
I think now it's striking while the iron is hot, and in all honesty, I think it might be smarter to do it on Raw, but like the title switch, I mean.
Right.
But I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I could. Because it kind of depends on what they want to do going into WrestleMania. Because I'm guessing the idea, the hope is to have Sasha Banks go against whoever is the Divas champion at WrestleMania. And now we know that Sasha can have a great match with Charlotte. We know she can have a phenomenal match against Becky. Which one do you put her in there with? But I'm like you. I'm like, at this point, Becky's really getting steam and momentum. She's getting over. Put the belt on her. Or, if you don't, have her get screwed out of it. And that's Charlotte can't go over clean. There has to be a screwy finish. And and maybe even we get a 3-way at Mania. The three of them against each other, Becky, Charlotte, and Sasha. That could steal the show. If they gave them plenty of time, that could easily steal the show. Because that 4-way they had at TakeOver with Bayley was phenomenal. So yeah, Vince, book it right now. In fact, either Becky gets screwed or Becky gets the belt, and it ends up the three of them going at Mania. And I think at Mania you really need to have Sasha win And then the next day on Raw, Sasha needs to throw the butterfly belt away and debut a new belt, a women's title.
I agree. Totally.
Yeah. Let's see what happened next. Oh, it was the Roman Reigns against everyone, which everyone ended up being Sheamus, Del Rio, Kevin Owens, the Wyatts, the New Day, Stardust, the Ascension, and Tyler Breeze. The reality was this was basically a Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens match. Eventually Vince told everyone to get in the ring and attack Roman, and brawl ensues. Brock Lesnar comes out, kills everyone, and then F5's Roman Reigns. And that was that.
Yes, it was.
It was, man, it's so many things that happened in this. One, poor Tyler Breeze. There are so many reports that Vince is already just doesn't see anything special in the guy. How he doesn't see anything special in Tyler Breeze, I don't know. But then you've got the on the other side, he puts Kevin Owens in there for the vast majority of this segment. And really, you look at that batch of guys, Kevin Owens is the best, not only wrestler, but just overall probably character of the whole group. I mean, the New Day works great as a group, but none of them are, the in-ring wrestler that Kevin Owens is. Bray Wyatt is close, and Tyler Breeze, especially in ring, is very close to Kevin Owens. But Del Rio and Sheamus can't hold a candle to Owens. So it's very strange, because you hear these reports that Vince is mad because Owens is chubby and all this and that. But when it comes down to it, okay, I'm going to put you in there. It's almost like when CM Punk was the guy, at how they treated Punk like crap and they basically abused him, but when it came down to it, like, yeah, we need you in that ring because we know you're better than everyone else.
Yeah. Very similar. Let's hope Owens doesn't do what Punk did.
Well, if Owens could be a guy, if he makes enough money, he gets to the point where he's like, hey, I've got enough money for my family, especially if he gets treated like garbage. Which I suspect, I'm hoping that they're starting to treat people better, and I think Triple H learned a lot from that whole CM Punk experience, because he seems to have a much better relationship with talent now than he did then, and I'm not sure how much of that is because he is farther removed from being an in-ring competitor now than he was then, because he was wrestling a whole lot more back then.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of it is the fact that the whole taking off NXT and really developing people, and if he's just something in him's changed. But I wouldn't be surprised if he learned a lot, because I think that whole situation, I think they kind of look back at that, at least the smart people in the company, and probably think, man, we really screwed that up. This guy was money, and we basically abused him as an employer, because he's young enough, he could still be there. And can you imagine how different things would be right now if CM Punk hadn't left or had come back? And the matches, CM Punk against Seth Rollins, CM Punk against Cesaro, or someday Finn Balor. I mean, I get excited and sad all at the same time. Okay, but that was Raw. So let's talk about the Royal Rumble. I guess first things first. The four guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Karl Anderson, and Doc Gallows are all but signed to WWE. Nakamura has just straight up said, I'm going to WWE. it's done. It's been reported that he's heading to the Performance Center starting in February. And AJ Styles has basically all but said, I'm in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. So I'm, especially with AJ, since with talking about the Rumble, the possibility of AJ Styles showing up at the Rumble, I'm super excited about. But then there's this part of me that thinks, I really wish he would just go to NXT because they won't fuck him up there. What do you think?
All I know is, in terms of star power and like, I guess, I think if AJ is a surprise entry in the Rumble, he'll get a Diesel reaction when Kevin Nash was the surprise entry a few years back in the 40-man Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
He'll get a reaction like Kevin did because nobody expected it. But it won't be for the same reason, but it'll be the same reaction.
I can see that. Now, a crowd like the Rumble is the Rumble is kind of like WrestleMania, and that's a destination pay-per-view, so that there are going to be people. They're going to, in other words, there are going to be a lot more smart fans in that crowd than there would be for your average pay-per-view or your average Raw, which I think helps.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yeah,
I think it does.
You don't debut a guy like an AJ Styles or any really indie darling in front of a crowd that's not a smart crowd, because it'll go over like a wet fart.
Yeah.
So, but how well does he do in the Rumble? And where do you think he just shows up in the middle somewhere? Do you think he eliminates a lot of people? Does he get thrown out like a chump? I mean, obviously they're paying a pretty penny for the dude. Especially if reports are to be taken at face value that he isn't going to NXT because he just costs too much money to go to NXT, and they have to be desperate for star power right now if they're willing to do this. It'd be stupid
for them to put him in NXT.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would probably say, if it was me, number one, don't have Michael Cole commentate. If AJ Styles is coming into the match, have Mauro Ranallo commentate the match because he did Japan. So he'll know AJ Styles.
That's a great idea.
And then you have AJ have a Rick Martel Royal Rumble, a Rick Martel Royal Rumble performance, but don't have him win. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I wouldn't be sad if he won.
Oh no. And there would be a certain synergy to that. He shows up in New Japan his first night, he wins the IWGP Championship. He shows up in WWE the first night, he wins the WWE Championship.
You want to talk about investing in someone? That would be a great way to invest in him and give him the ball for when Doc and Karl come.
Yeah, true. Now, when on a segue to a side note for that, when Doc and Karl do come, do you put them with AJ? Or do you put them with Finn Balor?
It depends on if Finn turns heel in NXT. If Finn turns heel in NXT, and also it depends if Doc and Karl go to NXT or come to the main roster. If Finn turns heel in NXT, then he'll be babyface when he comes up to the main roster. Well, I think either way he's going to be a babyface when he comes up to the main roster. But I think it would be more... Well, it depends on how he debuts. You need to have him have a run as a heel, either in NXT or on the main roster, but it also depends on what AJ Styles debuts as.
True.
You know, I think with AJ, he would have to debut as a babyface. So then you have Finn come up as a heel with Karl and Doc.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing to do would you have AJ as a babyface. You have Karl and Doc's first appearance. Actually, I would hold them off TV until the takeover in Dallas, which I'm assuming is going to be Finn Balor against Sami Zayn. I think you have Sami Zayn go over, get the win, become the first 2-time NXT champion. At first, Finn and Zayn hug it out, and then Finn attacks Zayn. Doc and Karl come out. They beat down Sami Zayn, and then Finn gets on the mic and says, "You know what? I've had enough of this crap. I'll see you on Monday." And they show up as the Balor Club or Bullet Club, if they actually buy the name, on Raw on Monday, and just start taking people out. And they could even confront AJ. And at that point, you could, depending on how much into the last bit of time in New Japan they even want to touch, they could, if they have Ronaldo out there, they could even say the last time Karl Anderson and Doc Gallows were in a ring with AJ Styles, they were beating him down. How's this going to work out?
In that case, they need to do it on SmackDown.
Ooh, yeah. Make SmackDown important again. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It just depends, though, on what kind of crowd are you going to have that SmackDown taping?
Who cares? You can pipe in cheers and boos.
True, but I hate that. It's so glaringly obvious, and that Raw after WrestleMania crowd, that would be the kind of crowd that would go ballistic for Finn Balor to show up, especially in a Bullet Club type situation.
Yeah.
And especially
you just give him 20 minutes, and him and AJ.
Oh my God. And that would be a hell of a feud, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Yes. Okay, Vince, book it. That's what we need right there. Yeah, that would be incredible. And as much as I wanted, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in a match at Mania, which isn't going to happen at this point, I think making Sami Zayn the first 2-time NXT champion, giving him an actual solid run with that belt before bringing him up to the main roster, I think would be a good idea. And yeah, that would. And whether you have AJ win the championship at the Royal Rumble or not, it would be him and Finn Balor would be a hell of a feud if you let the guys, if you give them time to actually work their magic. That's match of the year candidates right there.
I'm not worried about them not giving Finn the time. I'm worried about them not giving AJ the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you and I both know how a certain TV producer feels about people from Gainesville, Georgia.
That is true. Yes. That is very true. They don't like the Southerners very much.
Oh, no, it's not Vince. It's
Kevin Dunn.
Kevin Dunn.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for him to be gone. Okay, people, I don't wish the man dead. I just want him out of the company because, awful at this point. What else do you think is going to happen in the Rumble? I mean, obviously the Wyatts are going to come in as a unit. Do you think at some point it's going to be a Wyatt versus Wyatt? And does it come down to where it's Bray and his family, and he eventually tells the rest of them to get out?
Oh, actually, I don't know if you saw Jim Ross's latest blog. He said that he thinks that one of the Wyatt family members, not Bray, but one of the Wyatts, should be the ones who should be the one who goes in the ring against The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Which one, though?
He said Harper.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a good idea.
The Rumble could be the foundation of teasing the tension between the Wyatt family. They can't break them up, though, because they tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think getting some tension in there and absolutely solidifying Luke Harper as the second in command, even though I don't think anyone, denies that or thinks otherwise, but maybe even have Harper be the one to eliminate Braun Strowman from the Rumble.
And I think Strowman needs a good showing, too.
He does, because the poor guy is so green, and, I mean, he's huge, but what else has he got? Mm-hmm. And that chokeout is just kind of lame.
I mean, this is his match. It's a battle royal.
True. There's a part of me that would love to see them, let Bray Wyatt win.
Oh, I mean, it's like AJ Styles, Bray Wyatt. They need that shocking winner because, that's what made WrestleMania last year all the more better because of the shocking ending with Seth Rollins.
Yes.
And if they do it once in a while, it means all the more, and they could ride the shock value till Fastlane, and then they could do something at Fastlane to ride the value until WrestleMania.
Yeah, absolutely, because you've got... Sometimes predictable is good. Daniel Bryan winning the title at WrestleMania 30. I think everyone figured that was going to happen, but that was great. It was a phenomenal moment. But if they end up, putting the strap on Triple H or on Roman, I think that would be terrible. I don't even think Triple H should be in the match. I think he should come down to ringside at some point, distract Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns gets eliminated.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, that he should be the reason why Roman gets eliminated.
Yep, and then that sets them up for WrestleMania, a match. And because you know what, Roman's actually has not been a horrible champion.
That's true.
He has been surprisingly good in this role.
Yep.
But let's do something people aren't expecting. And we all know that Roman is going to have many, many runs with the belt over the years. He's a young guy. Vince McMahon loves him. So that's going to happen. Let's have him have a really good feud with Triple H and have a great match at WrestleMania that's not for the title. Because Roman has succeeded, I think, in the last year, after those initial failures, the Royal Rumble win last year, and then the WrestleMania, it was when he was knocked down a few pegs, and people saw that he had to basically build himself back up. That helped him a lot. So he's had the championship. He hasn't sucked at it. I think people have enjoyed it. He's getting good pops. Take him back out of that picture. Have him fight his way back up. It would work better.
And it's also that if he is indeed facing Hunter at WrestleMania, they don't need the title.
Exactly. That is a match that does not need the championship. Who do you put it on? I mean, if it was you, if you were booking this thing, who would you put the belt on?
Well, I mean, the best way I can say it is you go back to, that old clusterfuck that used to be the WCW's World War III, and how they never used that match to make new stars. WWE has lost the ability with the Royal Rumble of what it used to be. It used to be the springboard, like the King of the Ring, used to be the springboard to create new talent. Shawn Michaels, with the Royal Rumble and Bret Hart with the King of the Ring are perfect examples, and Austin. But that's what they need. They need, right now, with the Royal Rumble, to make new stars.
Yeah, I agree. That's... So, we've got, of new people, you think that... So, you want someone new who hasn't had the belt before. So, that's, you've got your AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt. I mean, you could maybe say Ziggler, but I don't think they would go with him. Who else do you think would be in the mix, and who would be your choice?
It's a tough one. I mean, because of how weak the roster is, I gotta say AJ. I don't think they would do it because he's making his debut, even though they should, because it would be that shocking. But I think AJ should win the title in his debut.
I agree. I would, and if not AJ, I think it needs to go to somebody. Even though we were just talking about using them to rehab the IC title, it needs to go to somebody like either Owens or Ambrose or Wyatt. But I think AJ.
I agree with Wyatt too.
Yeah, I think AJ is the one because it shows how much of a big deal him coming in is. And to the casual fans, most of them are going to be like, who the hell is this guy? Because TNA did not do their job in making this guy a big star.
Not at all.
And people will, I've heard criticism of him that, he didn't draw money in TNA. Well, no one's drawn money in TNA ever. I mean,
except Kurt Angle.
Except Kurt Angle and maybe Jeff Hardy. Hulk Hogan didn't draw money. Sting didn't draw money. Flair didn't draw money. No one. And that's completely on TNA. Because they are just such a fuck up.
It's true.
But yeah, you bring in AJ Styles, and especially now that he's been gone from TNA for 2 years, and how he's proved his value, how the places he's wrestled have made money, he has proven to be a draw. Now again, it's people say it's apples and oranges because you're talking, 500 to 5,000 seat arenas versus 10 to 20,000 seat arenas. But you bring this guy in and you have him win the biggest belt on his first night, and yeah, that's a huge deal. He would be the first person to be a 2-time IWGP champion and the WWE champion and the TNA champion, but they're not going to talk about that.
That's very true.
So yeah, I agree with you. I'm AJ Styles for the gold. Let's book it. Probably.
And I'll just throw out Mark Henry too.
Really? But he'd have to drop it quick. But it would be a nice feel-good moment.
They need to do something to say thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I think Sol Monster in his show suggested having Mark Henry win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal as the send-off thank you. But yeah, the Royal Rumble would be another good way to do it. I could see that, and that would be surprising. As long as it's not the Big Show.
That's very true. I mean, but with how bad they booked Mark for the last year, he can't win.
Yeah, exactly. The
Battle Royal, yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, you can easily have him win that Battle Royal because at this point it doesn't mean a whole lot other than kind of a feel-good moment.
Totally.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to NXT this week. The first episode back in Full Sail. William Regal opened the show announcing a number one contenders battle royal for the women's championship, and then introduced Sami Zayn to come out for an in-ring promo. Sami was saying he wants the championship. He was interrupted by Samoa Joe, and they were then both interrupted by Baron Corbin. And eventually Corbin attacked Zayn. A little bit of a brawl. Zayn haluva kicked Corbin out of the ring. Joe was about to attack him, but then he couldn't surprise Sami Zayn, so it didn't happen. I thought this was a cool segment. I think Baron Corbin has come a long way. He was my most improved wrestler of 2015, but he's still a little stiff on his promos.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch Breaking Ground. Have you been watching Breaking Ground, or did you watch it at all?
I watched a little bit of one episode, but I don't remember which one.
Okay. If you have time, there aren't a ton of episodes, but if at some point you have time, you should go back and watch it. It's pretty interesting. And I think it's a good way to help get some of these people over. Like with Corbin, if they could figure out a way to just take the way he naturally behaves, because he is a dick, and have him feel more ease on the microphone just being himself, he will be a great heel. But just in this part, it just didn't quite work. But then again, I mean, you are coming into a ring with two guys who are fantastic on the mic, and who have been doing this for a very long time, and you are still he's a complete newbie in comparison. But this setup, eventually it was announced later on that there's going to be a triple threat match in 2 weeks for the number one contender between Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, and Baron Corbin. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Bayley did a backstage interview, and she said depending on who wins the Battle Royal, she may give them a hug. I love Bayley. She's so awesome. They announced the year-end awards. And this was, I tell you what, this was how the Slammy should be handled every year, because this was actually fairly legit, I think, and they gave plenty of time for voting on everything. But the results were Cass and Enzo, Tag Team of the Year, Bayley, Female Wrestler of the Year, Finn Balor was the Male Wrestler of the Year and the Overall Competitor of the Year, and Bayley versus Sasha at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn was Match of the Year. I really can't disagree with any of it. I mean, I think I voted for Sasha Banks for Female Wrestler of the Year, but I mean, it's like a tie really between Bayley and Sasha for 2015. Mm-hmm. What'd you think of those awards?
I'm right there with you. I agreed with all of them. I think that it's a little questionable how Cass and Enzo won the Tag Team of the Year. I don't know if they were the Tag Team of the Year. The most over Team of the Year, yes, but the Tag Team of the Year, I don't know.
Yeah. I can see that, because they were, since it's a popularity contest, they were absolutely the most over Tag Team of the Year. As far as the best Tag Team of the Year in NXT, that's hard.
Exactly.
I mean, the most improved, I would say, were, I don't know, man. That's a toss-up between Blake and Murphy and Dash and Dawson.
Yeah.
Both went from being complete jamokes to being tag team champions. Mm-hmm. So that's a hard one. And even you could say the Lucha Dragons, because they defeated the Ascension for the tag team titles, and then moved on. Or wait, was that in 2014?
That was 2014.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting my years mixed up. You almost, in a way, it's kind of a three-way tie, really, between Blake and Murphy, Dash and Dawson, and Cass and Enzo. Cass and Enzo were the most over. The other two were the teams that were really in the ring, the better teams, and definitely the most improved, because they both came leaps and bounds from where they'd started.
Absolutely.
And I really like Dash and Dawson. I've gotten to the point I really enjoy those guys.
You and me both?
Yeah. We then had a match, Tommaso Ciampa against Danny Burch. Ciampa got the win with a wicked-looking armbar. Burch got a lot of offense in, so I'm thinking they're eventually going to move him up from the jobber division. Maybe he will someday no longer be enhancement talent. But it was great to see Ciampa back. I really like him. And he fits in, I think, really well in NXT.
Yeah, I think he's more likely to be the one out of the two of them, him and Gargano. I think he's more likely to be the one that signs because of Gargano's standing in Evolve.
Really? Well, it also depends on how much they deepen their WWE deepens their relationship with Evolve.
Well, if they still let Gargano work Evolve, then maybe he'll come in for more dates with them. But if it's a choice between Evolve and WWE, I think he chooses Evolve because of what Evolve has made him.
True. He is kind of their poster boy right now. He's the face
Evolve
of their,
and Dragon Gate.
Yeah, that's true. Now it was when Sami Zayn did make his appearance at Evolve 49 or 50 or whatever it was, he did tell Gargano that, he wants to see him in NXT, but the way to get there is he first needs to become the Evolve champion. So maybe it's all part of the deal. But yeah, I think especially at the moment, I think you're right. I think Gargano would take right now Evolve over NXT. I think in the long run we're going to get Gargano in NXT.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think between the two, and I thought I'd read somewhere that Ciampa had actually already signed.
It's possible.
Yeah. But I like him a lot. I will say he's a lot better in NXT than he was in Ring of Honor.
I agree.
Yeah. Cass and Enzo had a backstage promo. I guess they're still going to go for the tag team titles. So since last time we talked, they did the London thing, and they did not put the titles on Cass and Enzo. And then Raw was in Brooklyn, and they did not debut Cass and Enzo in Brooklyn. What's going on? What are they doing with these two guys?
I think the only reason why they didn't put the titles on Cass and Enzo is because they weren't ready to take the titles off Dash and Dawson.
That makes sense. Okay. But at this point, I mean, really, what else is there for Cass and Enzo to do in NXT?
Oh, what they should have done is made it where it's more about Cass and Enzo getting revenge on Dash and Dawson for taking out Cass.
Yeah, true. So
take the titles out of the picture. Like meaning wise, it's not about that. It's about getting revenge.
Yeah,
it just so happens they're the champions.
And maybe that's the way that the rest of this feud goes. But you look at the main roster in there, as you mentioned before, the lack of depth, and this would be the perfect time to bring up Cass and Enzo. Can you imagine the back and forth they would have with the New Day? And yeah, oh my God! And Big E's even said that they're the team he really wants to work with. So I'm hoping that
before the end of the year they'll be up.
I agree with you.
Before the end of the year.
So every time they go to New York, I'm like, am I going to hear the music? Am I going to hear the music? I was really thinking when they were in the Barclays Center recently, I was like, Cass and Enzo are coming up. It's going to happen. And then it
could be at SummerSlam.
It could be. Yep.
Could be. Mm-hmm.
That would be because that would be back at the Barclays Center. And because if, again, like we talked about before, this is going to have to be in front of a smart crowd. So if it's not around, Royal Rumble time, since they're going to be in Orlando, and that's going to be a smart crowd, or WrestleMania, then yeah, you do it at the Barclays Center for SummerSlam. Speaking of, let's see. We had some backstage promos with Billy Kay, Deonna Purrazzo, who has been making the round, showing up on TV everywhere, and Emma talking about the Battle Royal. Let's see. Then we had Dash and Dawson in a match against the Ascension. Dash and Dawson got the win. This is a pretty good match. The Ascension are so much better in NXT.
Yeah, they are.
It's night and day. But that having been said, the crowd did not go as apeshit this time for them as they have the previous times they've shown back up. Probably because they've been down recently, I'm guessing, maybe.
That could be. Or it could just be that they finally realized that they're jobbers.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Let's see. So then we got another series of backstage promos about the Battle Royal. The first one was Nia Jax with William Regal, that trainer lady who's been on Breaking Ground, whose name I can't remember, and Eva Marie. I will get Eva Marie, the moments when Nia Jax was looking away and she was celebrating behind her back, that was kind of good. Still can't stand her, still think she sucks, but that was a good moment. Then we had Carmella, Peyton Royce, and Alexa Bliss talking. And the man you mentioned earlier, Elias Sampson, had a match against Corey Hollis. So he won with shake, rattle, and roll, basically. Honky tonk man indeed. Oh, God. Yeah, Sampson, he looks fantastic. This guy looks like $1 million, like the kind of guy who's going to be, just could do awesome things, and he's not terrible in the ring. He really, that finishing move sucks, but he is not bad in the ring. But then he brings out that goddamn guitar. Like, what are you doing? Do we not learn anything from Jeff Jarrett, people? I don't. I mean, you're like, he looks like he's got the personality of Curtis Axel, and without the potential of being crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay. Just better. Less said about this, the better. Finn Balor did a backstage interview. Then we had Cameron cut one of the most goddamn awful promos I've ever heard in my life.
Totally agree. You cut a 3-minute promo and you can't even get it right.
Yes. Oh my God. It was so terrible. And then Aaliyah, who I've seen on Breaking Ground. Oh, poor thing. It's like, oh, sweetie, no, this is just not going to work for you. Liv Morgan, who was kind of cringeworthy, and Asuka, who just makes them all look like pathetic bitches. So yeah, that's the main event, number one contenders Battle Royal. You know what I loved about this just right off the bat, and it shows the difference in the way that NXT thinks about women wrestlers versus the way that the main roster does. This was an over-the-top Battle Royal.
Yeah. All
the women's Battle Royals you get in the main roster are like between the ropes. Some freaking joke. And this was like, no, this is the rules of Battle Royal. We don't care they're chicks. We're going to have them do the same thing. And so it ended up, the ring was filled, had Cameron, Billy Kay, Liv Morgan, Peyton Royce, Aaliyah, Deonna Purrazzo were in the ring. Emma, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Eva Marie, and Asuka got entrances. Eva Marie was, of course, showered with booze because she's the most hated person in the world in Full Sail University. And Asuka just knocked her out of the way going into the ring. I thought that was fantastic.
Yep, I totally agree.
I loved how everyone just it was like there was that moment at the beginning of the match where Asuka was in one corner and everyone else was in the other corner, and they were all just staring at her. I thought that was great. And, this was actually a really good Battle Royal, I thought.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the eliminations in order. Aaliyah was eliminated. Deonna Purrazzo was eliminated, and she kind of took flight when she was eliminated. Cameron and Liv Morgan were eliminated at the same time by Alexa Bliss. Alexa was then eliminated. Then who else was? Emma was eliminated next, and then Billie Kay and Peyton Royce were both eliminated by Asuka. They had worked together to get rid of Emma. Asuka was eliminated by Eva Marie, which was supposed to be a surprise moment, but was slightly botched when they showed it from a different camera angle, when Asuka was kind of celebrating and turned around and looked right at Eva Marie and pretended like she didn't see her. And that was probably one of those moments where she turned around, she was like, oh, fuck, I probably should have turned the other way. And then got eliminated. And then Carmella jumped in the ring and eliminated Eva. So the story was Eva pulled a Miz and hid outside the ring most of the match. And Carmella got knocked out of the ring under the rope and was basically waiting to catch her breath. She got the win. The things I take away from this more than anything else, I think Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are the next two that girls that are really going to be kind of pushed as the next big competitors. Other than Asuka and the already established of the new batch, I think Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are the next two who are really going to make waves. And yeah, I think Carmella it'll be a match with her and Bayley. If anyone can bring Carmella to a good match, it's Bayley.
Absolutely.
And I did like how you have the moment where you think Eva Marie's going to win, and she doesn't, because that made that crowd so happy. And at one point they were chanting something like "We see Eva" or some point when she was hiding. I can't remember the exact chant, but I thought it was hilarious.
I remember that.
What do you think of this battle royal?
I think it provided a good indication of who is next in terms of who may be replacing Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky. I also the spot with Cameron and Liv Morgan, when Liv Morgan was going to powerbomb Cameron, or looked like she was going to powerbomb Cameron over the rope, and she did it too fast, but it was also, think about who she was doing it to.
Yeah.
Cameron's not very good.
Yes. Yeah, I think I put that botch more on Cameron than I do on Liv Morgan, because what little I've seen of her, she's not bad. I think the only thing that's going to possibly hold Liv Morgan back, and I don't know how much this will really affect it, is the fact that she and Alexa Bliss look so much alike. That now, granted, their gimmicks are very different. She's got the whole urban New Jersey thing going on, but then that's what was so cringeworthy about her promo, is that noise she made at the end. It kind of hurt my soul. But yeah,
not a fan of Homicide?
No, not at all. But yeah, I think you're right. I think this was really showcased who is going to be the kind of next people to move up. I think, I think Liv Morgan, they're move up eventually. I think she's still got a bright career ahead of her. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, I've actually liked them for a while. I think they both are really, really good. Alexa Bliss has gotten so much better in this year. Since
totally agree.
Yeah, since she turned heel, she is fantastic. So yeah, I think it was. I agree with you. It was kind of showing you where they're going and who they're going with, and it also showed that some people, Aaliyah, have so far to still go, and Cameron just needs to be fired.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, she complains about not being booked. You wonder why she isn't.
Yeah, because, lady, you tried to pin someone on their stomach. Oh, God. So
The motto of the division is be better than Cameron and you'll get booked.
You know, and sadly, even Eva Marie is better than Cameron.
And that's why Cameron should have been the one who sat outside the ring instead of Eva.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, I think at this point, they're just using Cameron as a body, as someone who has name recognition that to boost other people.
As
Eva,
she should be.
Yeah, as she should be. Eva, there are people higher up in the company that really want her pushed, and I think that's the only reason why she's getting any of the push she is in NXT is because there are people who are telling Triple H, hey, we have plans for this woman, make her not suck.
I mean, I think she could, but I think she needs to change her finish to be able to not suck.
Which is she using the sliced bread number 5
Yeah.
right now? Yeah. She actually also needs to stop walking in the ring like she's afraid she's going to break a nail and mess up her hair. If she actually treated this like a fight, like the way when Bayley and Sasha were in those matches, they treat it like a fight. And afterwards, they look like they've just been in a fight. So, yeah, she needs to stop parading around like, oh my God, my hair. But we're asking a lot, really. Did you get a chance to watch Ring of Honor, this most recent episode?
I actually, after them switching to comment, I don't get Ring of Honor anymore.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
There are places you can watch it. If you want some links, let me know. I'll hook you up. But you can see episodes like on their website. Normally on Saturday or Sunday on their website they do post the weeks before episode. And on Comment, it's like it was on Destination America in that they showed on Saturday first, and then on Wednesday they re-show that same episode. So by the time I end up doing this show, they've already put a new one out on syndication, but it's impossible to get that without it waiting a while. So, anywho, I didn't watch all of it. The thing that really I got out of it as much as I watched, there was two things. One, there was a match with Roppongi Vice and the All Night Express, and the fans in Ring of Honor are really turning on the All Night Express. And I don't know if it was just that crowd in Philadelphia, because this was from a set of tapings in Philly that happened right after Final Battle. So I don't know how much is that. I don't know if they're going to eventually turn the All Night Express heels, but it's hard to compete when you've got a roster that has two tag teams that are just absolutely beloved in Red Dragon and the Young Bucks.
True.
Yeah.
True, and I mean, it could just be that, people remember. People remember what Kenny King did and the fact that he turned his back on ROH for TNA.
Yeah, and what was the story? Because I wasn't watching either at the time, so what happened there? Do you remember?
His contract was expiring. He told Ring of Honor he was going to negotiate with TNA, and they said, well, you sign back with us, we'll give you the belts. You don't, and you want to negotiate with TNA, we're not going to give you the belt. Kenny King said, give us the belts, I'll stay, and then he ended up going to TNA.
Oh, what a dick move.
Yeah.
Man. Now, that having been said, the way these contract things are structured really needs to be changed. I forget which show I was listening to. It might have been one of the shows on the Voices of Wrestling. But someone was saying that the whole nature of these contracts, there needs to be a 30 or 60-day period where contractually talent is allowed to negotiate with other organizations without worrying about repercussions. Because that's messed up, man. That is unless you've got some, behind backwoods channels stuff going on, which how so much of the stuff ends up happening when people jump ship, like with the New Japan guys. I mean, now granted, it's known that, hey, our contracts come up in January every single year, and so WWE, all they had to do was through a third party, hey, we got this for you. And they shouldn't have to, the companies and the talent shouldn't have to go through that. Let's make it a reasonably equitable situation for everyone involved, and, not end up getting big dicks in the butt every time you want to try to get a better deal.
Well, I mean, that's why I have to praise what DJ Hyde's doing with CZW. He's not running a show this month. After Cage of Death in December, he took off the month of January to, well, basically get plans down pat, set up what he wants to do for the next year, and, how to build the Dojo Wars small show that they do with the training guy, the I guess developmental guys from the school, and figure out what talent he wants to bring in, figure out how to push the talent he has, like Lyle Rush, who is in the Top Prospect tournament. But he's taking the time to develop a plan of what he wants to do for the year. And I know it would be very difficult for WWE to do, but TNA can do it. They don't run house shows. They tape, 3-4 weeks in advance. I mean, Lucha could do it too. I think Lucha actually does do it in between seasons. Ring of Honor could do it too, and WWE could do it. I mean, WWE could do it, but is it a little tougher for them to do it? Yes, but can they? Yeah, they can. I mean, they don't have to not run shows, but they can take the time, figure out what talent they want, what long-term plans they have, and say, okay, John Cena versus this guy at SummerSlam, and if John Cena or this guy's not here, then Cena will versus this guy, and this guy will versus that guy, because it's obvious, at least in WWE, they have no long-term plan.
Yeah. And apparently there used to be a time where they did, and I don't know why they gave up on that, but yeah, I agree with you. And CZW is one of those organizations that I really wish I could see more of their stuff. Now, granted, after I see it, I might not enjoy it because of all the blood and the crazy crap they do. That's like PWG. I really wish I could see more PWG stuff, because what little I have seen is just ridiculously incredible. But yeah, so the other thing on this episode, there was a segment with the Kingdom. So the Kingdom came out, all four of them. Matt Taven's knee is just effed up. He was hobbling along. He got some cheers, some thank you Taven or something like that chants. So he was getting some love. They brought out security with him, and then Red Dragon showed up. Kyle O'Reilly freaking out because he still wants to kill, Adam Cole. Adam Cole's arms all taped up, but Adam Cole was talking trash on Taven and Bennett, saying they dropped the ball, this and that, and so we everyone already knows that Maria and Michael Bennett are in TNA. The set of tapings that these few episodes of Ring of Honor, like this last week and this coming week, were all from the post Best in World show, and it's that last set of tapings that Bennett and Maria were on. So I'm really curious how they're going to tie this up with the Kingdom. What are they going to do with Taven and Cole going forward? I mean, Cole's going to be fine. He's super over no matter what. Oh, I don't know what they're going to do with Matt Taven, and admittedly, I've just recently gotten to the point I enjoy the hell out of Taven and Bennett as a team. They are so much fun to watch, and knowing that they're not together anymore. Taven's contract doesn't expire for a few more months. Will he maybe show up in TNA? And what the hell is this miracle gimmick that they're using in TNA? Just no.
It's TNA.
Yeah. So have you watched some of the new TNA on Pop at all?
I haven't watched TNA since... Well, it has nothing to do with Pope, but it was about a month or two after Pope got the color commentary position.
Okay. Yeah, I don't watch TNA regularly, but I watched some of that first episode. It was still just stupid. The debut of Bennett and Maria, the gimmick was so dumb, and it was a big deal. That TNA signing those two, I was shocked. I mean, they're both young enough, especially, they're not old at all. They've got tons of years ahead of them. Bennett has grown on me. He's really good in the ring. He's got a great look. So your ROH contract is coming up. It doesn't work out negotiation-wise. WWE is desperate for star power. I mean, did Maria just burn that bridge so bad? Or did TNA just offer them so much more money, or just a contract where they can do more outside of TNA? At what point do you sit back and look and go, okay, so here are my choices. We've got this dying turd that is TNA, or the most up-and-coming promotion / brand in the business, which is NXT.
Or you have New Japan, who's losing Nakamura, who's losing Styles, who's losing,
Yep.
who's going to need star power like WWE, and you could have gotten a big push in Japan if you went to New Japan.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the question. Someone needs to get those two on a show, on a podcast. Sam Roberts, or JR, Stone Cold, somebody, get them on there and ask them, what the hell are you doing? Is it just the possibility of, okay, TNA is in such a shitty spot and we have so much star power that they could build their entire company around us, which is entirely possible? But why would you bet on that?
True.
It doesn't make sense to me. And it's not like they have kids. So, that I know of at least. So, if they don't have a family, it's just the two of them. They can do whatever. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense in my eyes why they would do this. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's going to be TNA's saving grace. I will be shocked if TNA makes it, another 2 years.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. So I guess that's about it. So anything you want to plug or talk about before we get out of here?
I mean, other than, the new look that's going to be coming to Wrestling Express within the next week or two, there really isn't anything other than that. Not really, no.
Okay. Well, everyone, make sure you guys check out WrestlingExpress.net. It's a great website. Michael does great work over there. Follow them on Twitter at Wrestling Express with one S. And yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Around the Ring OK. We'll have this episode up today at some point. Well, I'm saying this, but it doesn't matter because everyone who's hearing this will already know this, so never mind. So that's it. We're going to get out of here, and thanks everyone for listening, and we'll be back with some post-Royal Rumble goodness the Monday after the Rumble, see what happens, how bad they fuck that up. Hold our breath, folks. Okay, guys, take care.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view. And believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Bam! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.